Hey everyone, welcome back to J plus K Retro Gaming Channel. This week I'm so excited, I'm going to be playing the very successful, very iconic sequel to Pac-Man, Ms. Pac-Man. Or do you say Miss Pac-Man? I think I'm going to go with Ms.
Honey, don't you know I'm more than Pac-Man with a bow?
Today's video is going to be a little bit different than my 5-minute challenge. It's going to be a comparison video, a side-by-side look, just like I did with my Mario series, where I play Ms. Pac-Man on both the NES and Super NES. And I'll show them top-bottom on the screen. I'll flip the music back and forth as well. And in the end, I'm going to choose my favorite out of the two games, and I want you guys to also choose your favorite and let me know in the comments below.
Please.
Ms. Pac-Man, Pac-Man's love interest, first burst onto the scene in the arcades in 1981 when it was brought to us by Bally Midway. 1 year later in 1982, Atari 2600 released their port on, of course, the Atari Video Computer System. And spoiler alert, next week's video, I'm going to explore the difference between the arcade version and the Atari version. So we'll fast forward through many ports and many versions later. In 1990, Tengen, or Tengen, I'm not sure how you pronounce that either, but I'm going to go with Tengen, released their unofficial version on the NES of Ms. Pac-Man. Fans and gamers did like that version, but it was unlicensed, so there was a bit of a dark cloud around it. But in 1993, Namco made an official release of Ms. Pac-Man on the NES. And that's the version I'm going to be playing today. Although a lot of gamers like the unlicensed version better. But we'll see how this version stacks up to its big brother, 1996's version on the SNES, Williams Entertainment's Ms. Pac-Man. And a lot of people love this port because they said it's more similar to the arcade. So let's get into the gameplay, and again, it's going to be a split screen, so I'm going to have the music on for the NES, and then the Super Nintendo, and then back to the NES. I'm going to also have the interlude for both, with music for both. So again, let me know in the comments which game you guys prefer. So that was a brief gameplay of Ms. Pac-Man on both the SNES and the NES, and I must say, this battle was closer than I thought. I'm not going to give any ratings like I do for my 5-minute challenges, but I am going to give you my thoughts on both games. So audio and visual, I think the NES slightly comes out on top here. The SNES did have more accurate, more arcade-like sound effects, but the NES was a little bit more clear and crisp, so I'm going to give it to the NES. So for graphics and video, I'm going to have to give this one to the Super Nintendo, as the layout and the colors were very, very close to the arcade. Not that there's anything wrong with the NES version. I mean, it is a port of the game, so it doesn't have to be exact. I did like the layout, but the color and the maze itself was a little bit different, so a lot of gamers were down on this version because of that. But I didn't mind it, but the SNES does come out on top. So now for gameplay, I'm going to give this one slight edge to the SNES as well. The big difference here is the NES had the full screen and the SNES had the scrolling screen. Now I didn't mind the scrolling screen. A lot of people don't like the fact that you can't see what's coming ahead, but for me you could see enough of the screen that it really didn't matter. The scrolling wasn't choppy at all, so it was really smooth. Both games' controls were smooth, they played well, had no issues, so I think it comes down to whether or not you like the full screen or the scrolling screen. So when you take all of these factors into account, I'm going to give the slight edge to win this battle to the Super Nintendo version of Ms. Pac-Man. But it wasn't as big as a gap as I thought there would be, the Nintendo version being 3 years older, as well as the mazes not being exactly like the arcade, and of course the Super Nintendo having 16-bit versus the 8-bit of the Nintendo. But both games were awesome. I love Ms. Pac-Man. It was my older sister's favorite game growing up, so they kind of passed that along to me as a kid, and I still love it today. Let me know in the comments which game you guys prefer. And yes, next week I'm going to be doing the arcade version versus the Atari version. So hope to see you then. Thank you all for watching. Thanks to all our subscribers for all your support. And I'll see you next week. Bye.
Any last words before we chomp ya?
Just one.
Oh, looks like we have company. Care for a snack, fellas?